Women that gave that nice person a chance. How did it go? I married him, and we have been together for 37 years. Nice to read that. He constantly reminded me that I friend-zoned him for years. I was married at the time. Long story short, he was an idiot, cheap, selfish, and annoying as hell. Didn't last long, and he still owes me a lot of money that I'll never see again. The same guys who accuse married women of friend-zonism will say in the next breath that all married women cheat, that they supposedly just need to be hot enough. These guys often see the fact that you were faithful to your partner as a blow to their ego. I would run as far away from someone like that as I possibly could. He ended up being genuinely nice. We've been married for 15 years. I remember chatting with a supervisor at work, and she was telling me about one of the guys on her team. She told me what a great guy he was, and told me I should go out with him. I was like, he's so nice. But I date dumb sis. 21-year-old me. Technically we weren't allowed to date because of policy, but she nudged us together. After our first date she offered to transfer him to another location. She did. He changed stores. We've been married 26 years next week. Always refreshing to hear a story that works out nicely. I'm pleased for you. In my experience, if I'm thinking of it as giving them a chance instead of just, like, going on a fun date, I'm probably not that into them. Nice people, genuinely nice people, are the only people I'll willingly date. But not all nice people are people I'm attracted to, and there's not much that either of us can do about that. Dated a nice guy who always talked about how nice he was. Got my heart broken. Dated a guy who always joked, "No, I'm an asshole," but quietly and humbly did kind things for others all the time. We eventually broke up, but are still good friends to this day. I ended up with a stalker. Yeah, mine ended up confessing to being a fan of mine, and I stopped using social media after that. It just gave me the creeps. He demanded all of my time, called constantly, and got insanely jealous of the stupidest things. Demanded I quit my job and drop out of school because he couldn't stand I was around other boys. I broke it off after a week and caught him peeking in my windows in the middle of the night. Note, I lived 20 miles from the nearest town and 2 miles from any other house. No idea how he got there, because he couldn't drive. My brother talked him into our car and drove him one state over and ditched him outside his parents' house. Never saw him again. You've got a good brother, and good on you for not tolerating that shitty, clingy, codependent mess. He was a nice person, but nice doesn't necessarily translate to good relationship skills. Holy shit. Yes, I had the exact same issues, and now I don't date people with bad communication skills. This guy definitely has boyfriend potential. His heart is in the right place and I think he'll make someone very happy someday. But I was not in a place where I was willing to be a relationship teacher. We all go through periods of not being a great dater and having to learn. But a person still in that phase isn't going to be a good match with someone who is more secure. It doesn't make either of them a bad person, but it might not be a good fit. I went on a first date with a nice guy. We texted for about a week, and he seems normal enough. We met for coffee around 11 AM and chatted for about an hour. Afterward I thought I'd like to see him again, so I gave him my number. I was busy that afternoon, and when I checked my phone around 2 PM he had sent me 24 messages. When I read through them, he had used my number for a reverse directory, found my last name, and googled me. He found my brother's obituary, and from there he got my whole family list, which was creepy AF. He mentioned my religion, my brother's cause of death, his niece, my daughter, and stated her uni and wrote, "pretty daughter," so he had googled her too. And if that wasn't enough, he took a picture of a taxidermy fish, and as a joke, I guess, was talking in third person as the fish. I freaked the F out and texted him back to never ever contact me again. Before I blocked him everywhere. Just writing this give me the chills. JFC. I wonder what makes him think he's such a nice guy. If they have to say they are nice, they're not that nice. Asked me to be his GF the very first time we hung out. Gave me keys to his apartment. Bought me a teddy bear. I noticed he was changing all his interests to match mine. Suddenly my fave music was what he said his fave music was. I paint and suddenly he's ordering paint and turning his spare room into a painting room. No solid evidence of that being an interest prior. Noticed he left out a vegan cookbook where I could see it when I was vegan, and it really struck me as a if I leave this out she'll see it and now I'm putting an effort kind of gesture, which came off as manipulative. We'd only hung out 3 times and talked for maybe a month, so all this stuff combined was alarming and I cut it off. For that and some personal reasons. Right before I ended it, he told me he bought me another present. Edit. Why are a bunch of dudes commenting on this, defending this weird behavior? I'm pretty sure the women here understand why all of this is a giant red flag. Probably one of his own fingers. Or like the head of someone you said you didn't like. Well, he turned out to be AA gaslighting. A manipulative son of a sexist who would argue about consent and couldn't fathom other people, mostly me, not enjoying the same things he did. He only understood consent when it came to sex, but would repeatedly bully me into unprotected sex because condoms me. So bad. Me. But hey, he couldn't be abusive because he told me how much he loved me a dozen times a day minimum. His words, not mine. Sharing the same experience. Badly, he wasn't actually a nice person and has been sliding in my DMs for the last few days. He was an insecure, controlling, manipulative, gaslighting arsehole whose entire personality was built upon people thinking he was a really nice guy. I was very young, 18, and he was 26. He proposed when I was 20 because every other girl ended up leaving him by 21. He isolated me from all my friends and family, had tracking devices on me, keyloggers on my laptop, would bully me and withhold affection/sex. Played video games 6+ hours a day because being around me was so terrible. He expected to be a stay-at-home dad while I worked and wanted to be a dad by 30. I would have been 22. I ended things and he emptied our joint bank account. Gave me nothing from the sale of our condo that I'd provided the down payment for. Forces me to sign over ownership of our shared car and stole the engagement ring I paid half for. I was too young and broke without any support to do anything. We worked in the same company, and after our split he spread lots of rumors about me. It was hell. He got engaged to another girl at the company within the next year. They split too. He finally found a girl young enough and naive enough to marry him and have a baby. 10 years on, I'm single, incredibly successful and living the life I've always wanted. He's still living in the tiny old townhouse his parents bought him after our split and driving the car I paid for. He started harassing mutual friends after I hit a busy period with a new job and moving home. He knew this. He was convinced that I wasn't really busy and that I was angry at him. I told him to chill the F out after our friends told me he'd been messaging them about me. On the anniversary of my mum's death I didn't reply to any of his messages. He knew what day it was, so he sent abusive messages and then a new, I know what today is. You can have today, but I expect a reply tomorrow. I blocked him. He sent multiple abusive emails, so I blocked that too. 2 weeks later he showed up at my door with a 6-page letter detailing why we had to be friends. I told him if he ever contacted me again I'd call the police. In between all of this, he set up 8 pages accusing my ex of cheating, later confessed to it, called my dad his nemesis because I wouldn't hang out with him on my dad's birthday, accused our mutual friends of being P-words and EV perpetrators. Yeah. He was really nice. I was nice to him in math class in high school, since he was the new kid and was quiet. He apparently took my niceness as flirting, and when he saw me at the Friday night football game with another guy, got his older sister to almost run me over with her car and then proceed to jump me with her friend. This is in a small town, and my older brother was the captain of the football team, so basically the whole school shunned them both after that. Doesn't make me not want to reach out, but it does make me use the word friend obnoxiously with guys in the beginning, so they clearly understand I have no interest whatsoever. Someone warned me before meeting him, he's a golden retriever. He's a follower, not a leader. And I didn't understand that until I found myself in the middle of countless situations where I was embarrassed by him. He felt graduating from an HBCU as a white man earned him some sort of cred. He was a bootlicker. He once got into an argument with me about gentrification, then later admitted he didn't know what the word gentrification meant. He was years and years older than me and had always lived in his home state, following mom and dad's orders, but claimed he had plans to move to my city for a long time prior to us meeting, and pretended to have everything in common with me. We hooked up when I was visiting home for the holidays, as we grew up a few towns away from each other. Once returning to my apartment, I told him I was very busy moving, but maybe he could come visit sometime in the future. He booked a flight that day and rented a car and showed up at my house. I kindly tolerated him for a few days before telling him to scram because he was literally prolonging my move. Afterwards, he told me no one in his life had ever been so mean to him as I was. Maybe they should be. He was as overall abusive, just refrained from the physical abuse. He stalked me and spewed hate about me after I finally broke up with him after his many tirades. He continues to reach out to me every year or so to see if I'm ready to leave my husband yet, who is the man I started dating after him. Started out nice, then gradually went downhill. I realized he didn't care for me beyond how I could satisfy him sexually. He's goofy, but he's my kinda goofy. Together 8 years and married for 3. That's sweet. Congrats. He called me a CKTs when I didn't put out, and lied and said he was helping his grandmother with yard work out of town when he was actually seeing his girlfriend I didn't know about. So not great. Gaslighting and excuses every time I brought up an issue. The poor Miak got old. No good. Emotionally immature. Strange. Awkward. Stingy and boring. Just because people may sing their praises to you about them being nice. Sometimes our bodies know things before we even realize. I dated a guy that all of his close friends, both men and women, a few of whom had known him for about 30 years, so almost his whole life, sung as a hero, that he's so nice and only deserves the best woman. They set us up, and he admitted to me in private that he never treats the women he dates with the same respect that he does with his friends/coworkers. He was emotionally immature and abusive. Constant gaslighting. Never admitted fault. Would play mental gymnastics when caught lying/being manipulative. And told me that everything was my fault. He was awful. He dumped me, and I'm not friends with those mutual friends anymore. Because he only dates crazy women and is always the victim. He told me the women he dated only sent his apartment key back and never formally broke up with him. I always wished I could talk to her about what happened and if she felt unsafe around him at all. He stalked me for 8 years. Still not sure if he stopped. My god. Same situation for me. I ended up with more issues, and I'm pretty sure some level of PTSD. I feel like this is a common trend. Physical abuse. Mental and emotional manipulation. Also, I got raped. So yay, nice guys get nothing from me now. He pursued me for over a year, during which I told him multiple times I didn't feel that way about him. Then finally he blew up at me over my depression, and I told him I didn't want to talk to him anymore. Another year went by, and I reached out to him, because I was young and dumb, and growth rom-coms had convinced me that his persistence was romantic. We started dating. He went out of his way to treat me like S, to get back at me for rejecting him before, and admitted to it later. Eventually found out that he had sagged multiple girls before we started dating. So that was that.